두려움과 두려움으로 있지만 새로운 꿈들을 위해.
A woman in a white dress stands outside a lamp shop. At the same time, a man with glasses named Hyun-min sits inside a bus. When the bus stops, he sees the woman sitting by the roadside. He notices her and leaves. The next day, Hyun-min again sees the woman in the same place, tapping her hand on the bench without pause. He finds it strange but walks away. He wonders why the light of the shop keeps drawing them together. This is Light Shop. The following night, Hyun-min gets off at the same stop and again finds the woman there. Because he keeps seeing her, he decides to ask why she always waits. She answers that she is waiting for someone. Hyun-min feels uneasy because the bus he rode was the last of the night. He tries to order an online taxi for her, but his phone will not turn on. Suddenly, the woman asks if he recognizes her. Hyun-min grows worried she might plan something dangerous and decides to leave. The next night heavy rain falls, yet the woman remains. Hyun-min shields her with his umbrella. Again she asks if he recognizes her. Hesitant, Hyun-min says he does. The woman, named Jiang, says they must meet because her time is running out. She asks Hyun-min to take her to his home because it is late. Confused, he still leads her to his apartment. When they arrive, Jiang tells Hyun-min to open the door and warns him not to turn on the light. His fear grows. The scene moves to a hospital where nurses on duty talk about strange sounds often heard in the ICU. One nurse, Young-ji, offers to keep watch while her colleagues rest. Soon after, Young-ji sees a man named Jong-rae enter as if searching for something. She tells him strangers are not allowed in the ICU unless they have business there. Jong-rae looks around and asks where the morgue is. Before she can answer, a patient suddenly goes into critical condition. Young-ji calls her colleagues and rushes to the patient. They find the tube connected to the breathing machine has come loose on its own. The nurses wonder how that happened. At the same time, Young-ji remembers Jong-rae, but he is gone. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Byung-jin shivers despite wearing a thick jacket and covering himself with a blanket. A dog's non-stop barking adds to his discomfort. The scene shifts to a lamp shop where Won-young works. Jong-rae, the man who earlier asked about the morgue, walks in looking confused. He scans the shop without speaking. When Won-young asks what he needs, Jong-rae stays silent and leaves. The focus moves to a classroom during an extra lesson. Hyun-ju notices a girl standing in the schoolyard and waves to her. The lesson begins and the teacher checks attendance. Back at the lamp shop, Byung-jin arrives. As he steps closer, the lamp he reaches for and the glasses worn by Won-young seem ready to freeze. Won-young warns him not to touch the lamps, as if aware that Byung-jin is not an ordinary person. Byung-jin says he is only looking for the dog that has been barking without pause. Won-young, used to strange visits, listens but stays calm. In the classroom, a sudden clap of thunder startles everyone. After the noise fades, students talk about the tradition of leaving one empty chair in every class for an unknown presence.
아무도 모르는 거야. 몰라. 가끔 보는 애들이 있대.
Hyun-ju notices that her class also has an empty chair. At the lamp shop, a woman in red shoes named Hae-won enters, her clothes wet from rain. Without a word, she reaches for a lamp. Won-young stops her. Upset, she quickly leaves. The story returns to Hyun-ju and her friends walking home in the rain after the lesson. They pass a dark alley. One friend, nervous about ghost stories, warns that people often see someone pacing and singing there. Hyun-ju claims she is not afraid because a bright lamp shop waits at the end of the alley. Her friends, still uneasy, choose another route. Hyun-ju admits to herself that she is scared. The heavy rain deepens the tension. She hears footsteps behind her, stops, and sees a dark figure approaching. Terrified, she runs toward the lamp shop. Hyun-ju knows Won-young well because she often visits his shop. Relieved to reach the bright interior, she tells him about the figure. Won-young explains that she might have the ability to see supernatural beings, as he does. He says many visitors to his shop are not ordinary humans but strange beings who blend with the living. He advises her to treat them as normal people so they will act the same. In the reflection of the glass table, Won-young's face briefly appears aged, but Hyun-ju does not notice. She is still thinking about his words. As night grows late, Won Young tells her to head home. After she leaves, he places 2 candy wrappers on the table beside several others. The scene returns to Hyunmin's apartment. He quickly hands Jiang a towel because she is soaked from the rain. As she dries herself, she keeps staring at him with a blank expression, which makes him uneasy. Hyunmin takes the towel back and notices something disturbing. Ji-young's fingernails are folded into her palms, the reverse of normal hands. He realizes she is one of the strange beings that move among humans. His fear deepens when Ji-young opens her suitcase, revealing scissors, sewing tools, and other sharp items. He begins to suspect she might harm him. Soon after, Hyunju arrives at her own apartment in the same building and on the same floor. She sees Ji-young leaving while carrying the suitcase. As they pass, Hyunju bows in greeting. Ji-young stops, startled that Hyunju can see her. When Hyunju unlocks her door, Ji-young keeps watching, the suitcase dripping blood. The story moves to Sunhi, a writer searching for a new home. She asks the landlord about the neighborhood. He explains that the house sits in an alley lined with empty homes and rarely visited by people. He assures her she will be comfortable there. While exploring the house, Sunhi finds one room that will not open. She complains briefly but decides to stay because she does not want to return to her old apartment. That night, she arranges her belongings and cleans the space. For the locked door, she hangs a cloth to cover it. Meanwhile, Ji-woong, a high school student, walks through the same alley that Hyunju used the day before. He feels uneasy and sings loudly to hide his fear. Strange sounds come from one of the houses, disturbing Sunhi as she writes.
있지만 새로운 꿈들을 위해.
Ji-woong finally relaxes when he reaches Won Young's lamp shop. Back in Sunhi's house, she reads a book when the lights suddenly go out. She checks the switch near the door and turns the lamp back on. A shadow appears outside the door, as if someone is waiting. At the hospital, nurses talk with Dr. Jiang about the patient whose breathing tube keeps coming loose. Their discussion stops when a patient named Kim, known for heavy drinking, wakes and causes a disturbance. Because all other rooms are full, they move him to the ICU. The head nurse, Hyo, complains to Dr. Jiang about the shortage of staff as the number of patients grows. Dr. Jiang stays focused on the critical case and meets the family of the patient whose tube keeps disconnecting. Outside the room, Dr. Jiang tells the family they have done everything possible. The outcome now depends on the patient's will to live. The family stands by, crying for their loved one. The scene returns to Sunhi as she dries her hair. Over the sound of the dryer, she hears a faint noise from the locked room and senses someone watching her. Outside, Ji-woong singing echoes through the alley, adding to her irritation. The power in the house suddenly cuts off, but the light inside the locked room stays on. Uneasy, she walks closer to check. At the hospital, young Ji stands in the bathroom, thinking about the patient's grieving family. A knock interrupts her thoughts. A woman asks how a patient can gain the will to live while in a coma. Young Ji explains that she once experienced the same condition and learned that all a family can do is wait and pray. The answer triggers a sudden change. The woman outside becomes aggressive and tries to force the door. The bathroom light flickers. From above, Hae-won appears and shouts that Young Ji must act. Young Ji freezes in fear. Another knock follows, and the light steadies. A cleaning staff member asks if she is all right. Relieved, Young Ji opens the door and quickly leaves, still shaken. Back in Sunhi's house, she manages to open the locked room. The lamp inside glows with an odd brightness. She switches it off, startling Ji-woong, who has just returned home. When she scolds him for singing, he panics and runs away, convinced she is a ghost. Confused, Sunhi steps out and resumes her activities. The lamp turns on again by itself. At school, Hyunju prepares to leave after an extra class. Her desk mate Udum remains asleep and cannot be woken, so Hyunju leaves alone. She plans to visit the lamp shop but must pass through the dark alley once more. During the walk, she notices a woman in the rain without an umbrella. It is Hae-won. Hyunju offers to share her umbrella, but soon realizes the woman is not human when her body begins to stretch unnaturally. Remembering Won Young's advice, Hyunju stays calm and then hurries away. Curiosity makes her glance back. Hae-won reacts and starts chasing her. Hyunju runs toward the lamp shop, calling for help. Won Young hears her, rushes outside, and finds her terrified. He tells her to head home, then removes his glasses and looks toward High One. The figure stops, turns, and walks away, unwilling to confront him. Back at the school, Dum wakes to find the classroom empty with the lights off. Her surprise grows when she notices the once empty chair now occupied by a short-haired girl staring at her. The same girl Hyunju often sees in the schoolyard. Meanwhile, Ji-woong continues his walk home and meets Jiang. Still uneasy from his encounter with Sunhi, he decides to walk with her for comfort. Ji-young keeps moving with her suitcase, and Ji-woong follows, holding his umbrella over them. The story returns to Sunhi, who wakes to find her house leaking. The night is warm after the power outage, so she washes her hair. In the bathroom, she notices some lights remain on while others stay off. As she showers, she finds a clump of hair in the drain and more scattered nearby. Alarmed, she steps out and sees the shadow of a woman in the mirror. She realizes the lights are not failing from an electrical problem but because something inside is turning them off to stay hidden. Outside, Ji-woong stands near Sunhi's house. He says he saw a woman inside but is terrified because behind her stood a much taller figure. Ji-young listens with interest and heads toward the house without fear. Ji-woong tries to stop her, but when he notices her reversed fingernails he panics. Ji-young tells him he is not much different, pointing out that his foot has already changed. Ji-woong attempts to run even though his foot is no longer normal. Inside, Sunhi senses a dark presence and tries to escape. The door stays locked even after she breaks the glass. Ji-woong, running in confusion, ends up back at the house. Both cry for help but cannot hear each other. Ji-young later reaches the lamp shop carrying her suitcase, still dripping red liquid. Won-young asks what she needs, but she only stares at the flickering lamps and begins to speak. Before she can continue, a man claiming to be a police officer enters. The scene shifts to 1 month earlier. A short-haired woman lives alone in an apartment. She hears pounding on her door and locks it, clearly annoyed as if she knows someone has been following her. When the noise stops, she peeks outside and sees flames spreading. A dark figure approaches and drags her out, causing her to fall from the 3rd floor. The attacker remains hidden in the darkness. Elsewhere, a man boards a bus and feels relief when he finds a seat. Moments later, another man enters. He is Sung-sik, a detective who once visited Won-young's lamp shop. Sung-sik tells the passengers to get off because the person he is chasing boarded that bus. After the passengers leave, only the attacker remains. He is the man who threw the woman from the 3rd floor and set the apartment on fire. His confidence fades when he sees the short-haired woman he killed sitting inside the bus. Police officers move in and arrest him. Once the arrest is over, Sung-sik steps aside and tries to light a cigarette. Another officer reminds him that smoking is not allowed. Annoyed, he stops when his lighter refuses to spark. Elsewhere, grandfather Min watches television. A knock at the door interrupts him. He sets the remote down with a trembling hand and asks the visitor to identify themselves. The next morning, Sung-sik reviews the closed arson case. Investigators believe the suspect acted out of jealousy and rejection. Still unsettled, Sung-sik tests his lighter again. It will not ignite, even after adding gas. His colleague arrives with news of a new case. Grandfather Min died the night before. Witnesses report a heart condition. That evening, Sung-sik visits the house where Min died. 2 guards on duty talk quietly after he enters, noting his reputation for finding small details and searching for evidence even when a case seems complete. Inside, another detective assumes the old man suffered a heart attack. Sung-sik disagrees. The body appears too calm. He also sees the TV remote placed on the left side, although Min was not left-handed. Someone else must have been sitting there. Back home, Sung-sik notices a box of unused maternity pads in the bathroom and remembers that his wife was pregnant. Memories of their time together return, and the empty house feels heavier. The following day, his colleague delivers the final report on Min's death, marked as solved. Sung-sik refuses to close it. He instructs his colleague to search for a ramen shop near the victim's home. Later that night, Sung-sik finds a shop that matches his suspicions. It offers delivery service. Inside, he recognizes the owner, Kim Sang-hoon, who had appeared earlier as a witness claiming Min died naturally. Sung-sik explains the details that trouble him. The television in Min's house showed advanced features that Min never used. The remote on the left side suggests another person was present. He also recalls a dried ramen seasoning stain on Min's cheek, which he first thought was an age spot. These details convince him that someone visited Min before he died. His questions irritate Sang-hoon, but Sung-sik identifies himself as a police officer and warns that he will return. Determined to find proof, Sung-sik continues his investigation. A month later, A woman flees through dark streets while a man on a motorcycle pursues her. As the rider closes in, Sung-sik appears and knocks him down. He pulls off the helmet and sees Sang-hoon. When Sung-sik demands an explanation, Sang-hoon asks how he can see the fleeing woman. Sung-sik looks again and realizes the woman is the same victim from the apartment fire. While Sung-sik struggles with the shock, Sang-hoon tries to escape. Sung-sik tackles him and they fight. A car approaches and its headlights flood the street. In the beam, Sung-sik sees that Sang-hoon's eyes gleam like those of a cat. Soon after, Sung-sik enters the lamp shop and tells Won-young he is searching for a fugitive. Jiang is about to leave when he notices red stains dripping from her suitcase and stops her. She explains that the marks come from her monthly cycle, which satisfies him. Seeing that she is soaked from the rain, he gives her his raincoat and lets her go. Nearby, Hyunju remembers her mother's request to buy a lamp and turns back toward the shop. On the way she unknowingly passes Jiang, who pauses, surprised that Hyunju can see her. Hyunju soon reaches the shop, but Won-young quickly asks her to head home. Understanding that he has business with the visitor inside, she leaves without questions. After she departs, Won-young asks Sung-sik how he located the shop, but Sung-sik remains silent, watching the flickering lamps. At the hospital, a mortician named Hwang arrives to prepare a body with help from a nurse. She panics when she thinks the corpse is still alive. Hwang calmly explains that the sound is only gas escaping. He continues the procedure until the dead man suddenly speaks, aware of his death.
이렇게 죽으면 안 돼요.
다 미련입니다.
Hwang listens as the man shares his sadness and regret. When the body is placed in the coffin, the man cries about the darkness. Hwang offers quiet comfort and closes the lid with a final sign of respect. Later, Young Ji starts her night shift. In the parking area she hears footsteps but sees no one. Inside the elevator a man named Sung-won enters, clothes dripping wet, and asks to go to the 8th floor. Young Ji is uneasy because the ICU is closed at night. Sung-won wonders if the accident victims will recover. Water drips from his head and begins to fill the elevator. Young Ji stays calm but the water rises until the doors open on the 8th floor and everything returns to normal.
아저씨 그만하세요.
Sung-won has vanished. She realizes it was a vision, changes into her uniform, and checks on the ICU patients, where Nurse Hyo asks her to care for 2 new accident victims. Back at the lamp shop, Sung-sik questions Won-young about the suspect, Sang-hoon. He explains that the man's eyes looked like a cat's when caught by light. Sung-sik's own eyes twitch as if about to pop out. Won-young offers no answers, so Sung-sik leaves. At the hospital, the ICU staff complain about the growing number of critical patients. 2 new accident victims arrive, prompting Nurse Hyo to move the recovering alcoholic to the general ward. Young Ji volunteers to handle the transfer because she wants to speak with Kim. Meanwhile, Hyunju heads home and unexpectedly meets Ji-young still carrying her suitcase. Ji-young asks why Hyunju can see her and why she keeps buying lamps when the bulbs have already been replaced. Hyunju explains that the purchases are for her mother and quickly walks away, realizing Ji-young is not human. Elsewhere in the hospital, Young Ji escorts Kim to the general ward. During the walk he asks about his habit of talking in his sleep and describing strange sights. Young Ji explains that he shows signs of delirium, a condition that blurs the line between real and imagined. Kim stays silent until they reach the room. When she turns off the light he looks terrified, so she moves closer and quietly tells him that she sees the same figure. She shares her own past. After an accident left her in a coma for several weeks, she struggled to adjust because she began seeing spirits. To her, the difference between the living and the dead is subtle. Only certain signs reveal a spirit. She adds that the figure Kim saw is Jong-rae, the man still lying in the ICU where she has been caring for him. Elsewhere, Hyunju has not yet reached home. She meets Byung-jin, the man always shivering. Remembering Won-young's warning to observe strangers first, she switches on the flashlight he gave her. The beam reveals layers of ice on Byung-jin's jackets, proving he is a wandering spirit. At the hospital, Young Ji and her colleagues are surprised when several patients suddenly improve, showing a strong will to live. The truth about the lamp shop becomes clear. Every visitor is a spirit whose body remains in a coma. Won-young's shop is not an ordinary store. It is a place where spirits decide whether to return to life. Each spirit who still has hope will find a lamp of their own. Those without a lamp, like Ji-young and Hai-won, are already dead. Young always asks visitors what they are looking for because the choice must be theirs. Hyunju finally reaches home and hugs her mother, Yoo-hee. She apologizes for not buying the lamp, distracted by the strange encounters on the way. She notices a sweet floral scent on her mother's body. Yoo-hee is the woman who spoke with Dr. Huang before cremation, which means she has already died. Yoo-hee's words to Dr. Huang were filled with concern for her daughter, who has not realized that she too is a spirit caught between life and death. Yoo-hee kept asking for a lamp each day, hoping that one of the lamps Hyunju bought would belong to her. Unseen by them, Jiang stands behind the door listening, still unsure whether Hyunju is already dead or a spirit with a chance to live. The story explains that spirits between life and death often feel as if they are walking through a dark tunnel toward a distant light. This journey is the dark alley leading to the bright lamp shop. Meanwhile, Hyunmin rides a train and sends a love message to his girlfriend Jiang. Their texts show how deeply he cares for her. Jiang hides her heartbreak because she must leave him under pressure from someone else who also loves him. His parents add to the strain, disapproving of their relationship because Jiang is deaf. Despite this, Hyunmin is committed and carries a ring to show he wants a future with her. The story shifts to Sunhi, who tours a new apartment she hopes to rent. Hae-won joins her, revealing that they already share a past relationship. When Hae-won decides against the apartment, Sunhi grows angry and walks out. Their matching red shoes hint at their close bond. Next comes Hyunju, a high school student happy to see her mother after class. Their affection is clear as they head home together. Another student, Ji-woong, finishes a basketball game and starts his walk with friends. The focus moves to Sung-won, a bus driver working through a rainstorm. He reports brake trouble to his boss but decides to finish the route and visit a repair shop later. He begins his run with a small child and an elderly woman as passengers. Hyunmin reaches the train station and heads toward the bus stop, realizing he left the flowers meant for Ji-young on the train. He still plans to visit her that night and sends a voice message to say he is on his way. Sung-won drives through heavy rain, stopping for passengers. Everyone except the small child eventually gets off. Hyunmin boards next, followed by Ji-woong. As Sung-won continues, the brakes feel worse, so he plans to skip the next stop and reach the repair shop sooner. Meanwhile, Sunhi and Hae-won keep arguing about the apartment. Hae-won fears exposure of their relationship in a crowded area. Sunhi disagrees and accuses her of shame. In frustration, she throws a red shoe into the street. This startles Sung-won, who stops the bus. Seizing the moment, Sunhi boards, with Hae-won close behind. Farther down the road, Hyunju and her mother Yoo-hee wait in the rain and wave for the bus. Sung-won hesitates but allows them on since it is the final run of the night. Now the passengers include Hyunmin, Ji-woong, Sunhi, Hae-won, Hyunju with her mother, and the small child. Rain taps against the windows as silence settles over the group. As the bus crosses a bridge, a tire bursts. Sung-won loses control and the bus crashes into an oncoming truck, plunging into the river. Inside, passengers cling to one another. Nearby, Ji-young hurries toward the bus stop to meet Hyunmin. She sees the crash and watches the bus sink but cannot call for help because she is deaf. Panicked, she runs toward the accident. Underwater, Ji-woong struggles to stay conscious. He slips his basketball over the small child's neck, hoping it will help the child float to the surface. Soon after, police and medical teams arrive to rescue the bus passengers. The hospital staff become overwhelmed, and the injured truck driver receives no immediate care because Young Ji overlooks him. Moments later, Ji-young reaches the hospital, desperate for news about Hyunmin. Families gather as the staff provide updates. Sung-won, the bus driver, is pronounced dead after water fills his lungs and damages his organs. Ji-woong survives but remains in a coma with a twisted leg. Doctors report that Hyunju is alive but unconscious, a relief to her father who has just arrived. Sunhi is also alive yet still in a coma. Only Hyunmin's parents wait without news. Their fear rises when hospital workers move the bodies of the deceased, but the victim is Hae-won, who died while protecting Sunhi. Soon after, police hand Hyunmin's phone to his parents. His mother reads his messages and learns that he went out that night to meet Ji-young. Angry and grief-stricken, she blames Ji-young for the accident. Heartbroken and full of guilt, Ji-young returns home. Not long after, the hospital announces that Hyunmin is alive but in a coma with a crushed spine. Hyunmin's father is furious when he discovers that his wife lied to Ji-young. Worse, Ji-young has already sent a reply saying she will follow Hyunmin into death. He sends a message to stop her, but it arrives too late. Ji-young has already tied a rope around her neck. After reading the message, she struggles to free herself, tearing her fingernails in the attempt, but she cannot escape and dies in despair. These events lead the spirits to the lamp shop. Some remain between life and death, while others have already passed on. Those still alive visit the shop seeking their own lamp. In the present, Dr. Huang and his assistant care for Jiang's body. Tradition requires 3 days before burial, allowing time for family goodbyes and for the spirit to settle unfinished matters. The soul has only this brief period to resolve what remains. Jiang's final wish is to sit at a bus stop and wait for Hyunmin on a bright day with falling leaves. Instead, she lingers in a dark, silent place, remembering the moments when Hyunmin often expressed his love, and she responded by gently tapping her fingernails as a sign of affection. In the spirit world, Jiang can finally speak, and the first word she says is Hyunmin. Yet she faces a painful truth. Hyunmin does not remember his human life and recoils in fear when he sees her, unaware that he too is now a spirit. Back in the living world, 2 workers begin clearing Jiyoung's rented room. When one hears a noise in another room and senses her presence, they leave and plan to return later. Jiyoung is indeed there, tending to Hyunmin's wounds. In reality, Hyunmin remains in a coma with a broken spine. From the start, the tools in her suitcase have been used each night to stitch his injuries. Although he does not remember her, she takes him to places they once visited, hoping to spark his memory, but he never recalls who she is. On the 4th night, as rain falls, Jiyoung leads Hyunmin toward his apartment because her time is almost over. At the same moment, Dr. Huang struggles to open her mortuary chamber. Finding no damage to the door, he realizes her spirit still has unfinished business and waits. Back at the lamp shop, Detective Sung-sik talks with Won Young. They share memories of their families. Won Young once had a daughter. Sung-sik never became a father because his wife suffered a miscarriage, even after they had chosen a name for the baby. When the rain stops, Sung-sik resumes the search for Sang-hoon despite the late hour. His dedication reminds him of the mistakes he made with his wife, when work always came first and their loss drove her away. Not long after, he hears a motorcycle and suspects Sang-hoon. He follows the sound to a school where Hyunju studies. Inside, he glimpses a figure in a classroom, but it vanishes as he approaches. Only a few lockers remain, marked with familiar names. The sight stirs memories of his wife's miscarriage, a time when they had already prepared everything for their child. Sung-sik keeps chasing the distant engine until exhaustion forces him to stop. As he rests, his eyes move in the strange way they did before. He gathers his strength and continues the pursuit. Meanwhile, Hyunju is startled by a dog on her way home, the same animal Byung-jin has been seeking. She urges it to run before the wandering cold spirit finds it. After the dog disappears, she heads for the elevator and unexpectedly meets Hyunmin. His clothes are stained with blood, and she freezes in fear. Her confusion grows when she realizes he is heading to the same floor, meaning they are neighbors. Before reaching his door, he asks how long they have lived there and why they have never met. Hyunju struggles for words. Suddenly, Hyunmin collapses, his injured back giving way. In the chaos, Ji-young appears and quickly places him inside her suitcase. Shaken, Hyunju rushes into her apartment. She remains curious until Yoo-hee urges her to close the door. When silence returns, Yoo-hee peeks outside, unaware that Ji-young now stands behind the door. Ji-young wonders why Hyunju can recognize her mother while Hyunmin cannot recognize her, then leaves in despair, uncertain how to help him remember. Inside, Hyunju complains to her mother for taking so long to open the door. She senses something different about Yoo-hee, who barely speaks. Instead of replying, Yoo-hee shows her the broken lamps. Frustrated, Hyunju says her mother does not understand what she faces each night, sent to buy lamps and forced to meet strangers, while at school her classmates act as if she does not exist. At the same time, Young-ji reaches the hospital basement and notices the spirit of an elderly woman watching her grieving grandson. After the boy leaves, the grandmother explains that she stays behind because she cannot bear to see her family cry over her body, especially the grandson she loves. When Young-ji enters the ICU, she sees a woman weeping beside a patient. It is Ji-young, waiting for Hyunmin. Feeling sympathy, Young-ji tells her that recovery often depends on both the patient's will to live and the support of loved ones. Ji-young understands that she must help Hyunmin herself. Moments later, the heart monitor picks up Hyunmin's steady pulse as Ji-young continues stitching his wounds in the spirit world. Sunhi senses the change. Watching a flickering lamp, she recalls her argument with Hai-won before the crash and remembers how Hai-won shielded her during the accident, saving her life. She now understands that the presence in her home has been Hai-won, still protecting her. In the hospital, Young-ji meets the small child who survived the crash. The child asks her to thank Ji-woong for saving him and to return the basketball that kept him afloat. Back in the spirit world, Ji-young searches for a place that might restore Hyunmin's memory. She crosses paths with Sung-won, the bus driver, and with Sung-sik, who is startled when his lighter suddenly ignites. The flame reminds him of the accident he experienced. Sung-sik visits Won Young and describes the strange events surrounding him, such as feeling no heat from hot coffee and the lighter from his wife that once failed but now works easily. Won Young replies that many visitors to the shop do not realize who they truly are. As Sung-sik notices that night never ends inside the lamp shop, he begins to grasp the truth. He asks why they are all there. Won Young removes his glasses, revealing eyes that gleam like a cat's. Won Young then speaks of his own past. He once lived as an ordinary man and died when a building collapsed. His daughter was with him. He tried to help her escape but was too weak and could only cry while trapped. His daughter stayed calm, offered him the last piece of candy she carried, and hoped he would wake after eating it. He urged her to eat it instead, promising that when the candy was gone he would return with help. After the collapse, Won Young finally escapes the rubble and walks through a dark alley calling for help until he sees a bright light. The glow comes from a lamp shop guarded by a woman wearing glasses named Seo Ryung. He begs her to save his daughter, but she tells him it is already too late. Desperate, he insists that his daughter cannot move, yet Seo Ryung remains unmoved. Frustrated, Won Young tries to smash one of the lamps. Seo Ryung removes her glasses, and every light goes dark except the lamp in his hand. He cannot move as she calmly returns the lamp to its place and the lights come back on. She explains that his daughter's lamp is there, but only the girl herself can claim it by choice. Looking around, Won Young realizes each lamp represents a human life and that his own presence proves he has already died. Rescue workers later find the collapsed building. His daughter, still pinned, offers him the last piece of her candy, believing he is only sleeping while he is already gone. He cries and pleads for her lamp, but because she cannot reach it, nothing changes. Seeing his grief, Seo Ryung offers an agreement. Through that agreement, Won Young becomes the new keeper of the lamps. Hearing this, Sung-sik grows convinced that he too is dead, remembering his own accident. Won Young assures him that he is still alive, explaining that the lamp shop lies on the boundary between life and death. Elsewhere, Byung-jin grows irritated by the constant barking of a dog. He follows the sound into a dark alley and sees the animal vanish. At the hospital, the head nurse introduces a new nurse, Song Buyong, and assigns Young-ji to guide her. Young-ji explains the ICU duties and introduces the patients. The first is Byung-jin, injured on the same day as the bus accident. He was a hiker who slipped while climbing, lost consciousness in the rain, and developed hypothermia. A rescue team found him after hearing a search dog bark. The dog stayed beside him to keep him warm until help arrived. In the spirit world, Byung-jin continues to chase the same dog and suddenly remembers it as the one that saved him. He realizes the dog died from a deep wound while being transported to the hospital. Overcome with emotion, Byung-jin apologizes for trying to catch it. The dog then invites him to follow, ready to guide him to the lamp shop so he can claim his own lamp. Meanwhile, Young-ji explains that Hyun-ju shows no external injuries because her mother sacrificed herself to protect her. The cost of that rescue was fatal, and Yoo-hee died. Despite the protection, Hyun-ju suffered severe internal damage and remains in a coma. In the spirit world, Hyun-ju cries alone as her mother urges her to buy a lamp each day. Yoo-hee pounds on the door, knowing her time is almost gone and that Dr. Hwang has already scheduled her funeral. When Hyun-ju refuses to come out, Yoo-hee picks up the necklace her daughter dropped and leaves. This reveals the reason for her daily requests. She wants Hyun-ju to find her own lamp and return to the living. Young-ji next describes Sunhi's condition. Sunhi survived the crash because Hae-won shielded her from the worst impact. Dr. Hwang has received word that Hae-won's family will soon arrive and that her funeral is planned. Knowing her time is short, Hae-won, still holding Sunhi from behind, urges her to visit the lamp shop. Sunhi begins to cry as she understands the truth. Young-ji then adjusts Jong-rae with help from the new nurse and replaces his earphones. She explains that he is the longest-staying ICU patient. The music she plays through the earphones helps guide him toward the light. In the spirit world, Jong-rae, who once wandered toward the morgue out of boredom, regains his will to live and moves toward the light. Afterward, Young-ji places the basketball beside Ji-woong's bed, hoping it will guide him. In the spirit world, the ball rolls on its own, seeking its owner. Soon the nurses learn that a patient in another ward has died. They bow their heads in a final gesture of respect. The new nurse looks saddened, and Young-ji reminds her that death is a frequent part of their work. In another room, Dr. Hwang receives the schedule for Sung-won's funeral. This means Sung-won has little time left to help the other passengers in the spirit world. By chance, Sung-won sees the moving basketball and follows it until it stops at Ji-woong. He lifts the boy and carries him to the lamp shop, hoping to atone for his mistakes and guide him there. Meanwhile, at the lamp shop, Sung-sik continues to question Won Young about his own fate. Won Young repeats what Sung-sik once mentioned. He and his wife had chosen a name, Hazel, for the child they lost to miscarriage. Sung-sik remembers entering a school and seeing that name on a student's locker. He realizes that both he and his child exist in the spirit world. Sung-sik finally accepts this, but asks why Won-young does not tell spirits with a chance to live the truth from the start. Won-young explains that if spirits remember the afterlife, the two worlds will overlap and time and space will blur. To return to life, they must forget. Understanding now, Sung-sik notices that the motorcycle sound that once guided him has gone silent. He holds his lighter, which represents his light, and Won-young invites him to leave. Moments later, Sung-sik wakes from his coma with tears in his eyes. At the same time in the spirit world, the rescue dog leads Byung-jin to the lamp shop, where he discovers his own lamp and claims it. At the same time, Sung-won, too weak to continue carrying Ji-woong, urges the boy to walk to the shop alone and find his light. Ji-woong hesitates, remembering how many times he passed the lamp shop without entering, while Sung-won apologizes for the accident and his role as the driver. Inside the shop, Won-young greets Ji-woong, already aware of what the boy seeks. Ji-woong searches until he finds his lamp, and its glow fills the room. The story moves back 5 years to Young-ji waking from a coma after her accident. She recalls the same journey through darkness and light that spirits experience, which explains why she can see them now. Her memories remain clear, and she feels joy when Jong-rae finally regains consciousness. The scene shifts to the bridge where the bus accident occurred. Ji-young brings Hyun-min there and carefully stitches his wounds, hoping to trigger his memory. After finishing, she leaves, knowing her time is nearly over and that Dr. Hwang has scheduled her funeral. Hyun-min, still the most severely injured of all the patients, remains weak and confused. Frustrated by his silence, Ji-young boards the same bus he once rode and reveals her own wounds. The shock awakens his memories, and he weeps with regret. They return to an apartment where Hyun-min again apologizes for forgetting the woman who has been with him all along. Though it pains her, Ji-young urges him to visit the lamp shop to find his light and return to life. Meanwhile, Sung-won waits outside Sunhi's house, ready to guide her, but Hae-won appears first. He apologizes, still burdened by guilt, but Hae-won forgives him and explains that fate cannot be changed. She asks him to focus on saving Hyun-ju while she leads Sunhae to the shop. After a few steps, Sung-won meets Yoo-hee and offers another apology. She forgives him as well, speaking haltingly because of the cotton packed in her mouth to stop the gases from her body. She tells him to help Hyun-ju while she goes to the shop. When Yoo-hee arrives at the lamp shop, she demands the lamp for her daughter. Won-young refuses, explaining the rules. Yoo-hee grows angry, but when he removes his glasses she falls silent, not from fear but recognition. She notices the familiar candy box he carries, asks for a piece, and offers it to him. In that instant they both understand. The woman before him is his daughter, and Won-young has waited a lifetime for this reunion. Bound by the agreement he once made with the previous keeper, he finally brings her lamp while remaining the guardian of the shop. Meanwhile, Hyun-ju still struggles to understand what has happened and leaves her apartment to search for her mother. In the elevator she grows uneasy when a passing woman shows no sign of noticing her. Outside, she meets Sung-won, who explains the strange events she has experienced and why her friends no longer respond to her. He tells her that she is in the afterlife and that her mother died protecting her. Shaken, Hyun-ju returns to her apartment. Her mother arrives carrying the lamp meant for her. Hyun-ju clings to her and refuses the lamp, not wanting to say goodbye. Yoo-hee gently insists, reminding her that her father in the living world still hopes for her recovery. Meanwhile, Hae-won convinces Sunhae to visit the lamp shop even as Sunhae weeps at the thought of leaving her lover. When they arrive, Won-young greets them as always. Sunhae sees a flickering lamp and touches it, briefly regaining consciousness in the hospital. Then she breaks her own lamp so she can remain with Hae-won, choosing the afterlife. Elsewhere, Ji-young guides Hyun-min to the lamp shop. Before they enter, they part with quiet understanding. Inside, Hyun-min cannot find his lamp at first, and Won-young signals that he must leave if he lacks the will to return. A lamp then begins to glow. Ji-young feels both joy and sorrow, happy that Hyun-min will live yet sad to lose him. 3 months later, Young-ji visits Ji-woong on the day of his hospital discharge. He remembers nothing unusual, which reassures her. His normal memory means he can live a full life, unlike her. Young-ji continues her quiet work guiding souls between life and death, helping them find their light in Won-young's lamp shop. Because she once survived a coma, she remembers the spirit world and her time with Won-young, which allows her to see spirits. In the afterlife, Won-young receives a new delivery of lamps, a sign that more souls will soon arrive. Sung-won now drives a bus for wandering spirits. Sunhae lives peacefully as a writer with Hae-won. Hyun-ju eventually returns to school, escorted by her father. After such a long absence, she struggles to reconnect with her classmates and feels set apart, for she still remembers everything from the afterlife, including her time with the lamp keeper. She is grateful that her mother now helps Won Young, who is her father, in the lamp shop. It is revealed that Won Young's shop is not unique. Lamp shops exist in hidden alleys everywhere, guiding spirits who hover between life and death. In the final scene, Hyunju walks alone, still carrying the memory of her journey. She now sees the invisible, including the short-haired ghost woman who once crossed her path in the spirit world. Elsewhere, Sung-sik visits Sang-hoon's ramen shop to offer thanks, because the sound of Sang-hoon's motorcycle led him to the lamp shop. Sang-hoon is not human, his eyes shine like a cat's, the same as Won Young's. In the living world, Sang-hoon's task is to awaken and drive away wandering spirits. He once performed this duty when he tried to capture the spirit of the short-haired woman who died in the apartment fire. Like Young-ji and Hyunju, Sung-sik retains memories of the spirit world. Because of this, he now sees supernatural beings, including Sang-hoon. Grandfather Min's death, however, was natural. He died of illness while watching television. Sang-hoon visited only to be sure the old man did not die alone. Recognizing Sung-sik's new ability, Sang-hoon gives him his glasses, passing on the duty of banishing spirits that remain among the living. That night, Young-ji crosses the hospital parking lot and encounters the angry spirit of the truck driver she overlooked while treating the bus accident victims. He blames her for his death and seeks revenge. Sung-sik arrives in time to fulfill his new role and sends the spirit away. Meanwhile, Hyun-min struggles with sleep and vivid hallucinations, as if night never ends. His doctor explains that this condition, known as delirium, is common after intensive care. It causes confusion, memory gaps, and difficulty separating reality from the spirit world. Still unsettled, Hyun-min walks to the bridge and throws his phone into the river, believing it holds no answers. When he returns to his apartment, the motion sensor light suddenly goes dark. As he waves to trigger it, he remembers calling out to Jiang at the bus stop and seeing her appear. The story closes with Sung-sik receiving a report from an actress named Yoon-young, who describes strange occurrences in an apartment. As a newly appointed spirit banisher, he visits the site to investigate. There he meets a man who says that for spirits the flow of time no longer matters. The tale ends with this encounter, leaving the boundary between life and death unresolved. So the moral of the story is keep your phone charged, trust the helpful dog, and if a late-night guest says do not turn on the lights while unpacking sewing tools, head out politely.